get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show. So have you ever felt betrayed?
All right, thank you. Be seated. All right, your next question.
Thank you. Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you a document that's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 146, and I believe this was entered into evidence previously. So if we could publish it to the jury as well, please. Mr. Depp, could you please explain to the jury what's reflected in this photograph?
I believe that's, well, it's definitely me. After receiving kind of a roundhouse punch from Miss Hurd. I believe that this is, it's March. I believe that this is from what's been called the staircase incident. Am I correct?
So you said you think this is from March of 2015?
I'm just looking at the top. Okay.
Do you remember who took this photograph?
Mr. Bett, Sean Bett.
And relative to when you had injured your finger, when was this photograph taken?
Sorry?
Relative to when you had injured your finger in Australia, when was this photograph taken?
The injury to my finger was sustained I believe it was a couple of weeks or so before this, because we were back in Los Angeles for the surgery and rehabilitation of the digit.
So I know you can't see your hand in this photograph, but what would your hand have been like given its injury at this date?
Well, it was still a very, it was a very fresh wound. When that amount of, when the tip of when your finger is severed, that's not gonna heal up for a very long time, and so my finger was still a very fresh wound. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that this might have been around the time of the pin. In the pin that was put into my finger to keep it together, I guess. And
what type of cast would you have had on at this time?
It wasn't a cast per se, as it was bandaging. When the bandage was out to sort of here, that was extra padding for the tip of the finger protection, and also because of the pin that was in there. So, as I'd said before, there were when Nurse Debbie would ask, give me, on a scale of 1 to 10, your pain, when the fingers started to feel differently and hurt a lot more, and it became like a 12 out of 10 pain. That was yes, that was right around then, and the reason for that was because of the infection. The MRSA had already been working its way for a number of days.
Mr. Depp, could you please explain to the jury the circumstances that led to you having the bruise that's reflected in this photograph?
There was another confrontation, another argument about something or other, and we were in penthouse 5 area, which was where Ms. Heard had her office at the top of the stairs. And so the stairs came down, and then there was a landing, and then another set of stairs went down the opposite direction. And this took place on the landing, where she was coming out, trying to get to me, trying to hit me, trying to do anything she could, and then Whitney, her sister, was there, who stepped in the way. And interesting thing that was interesting now is that Whitney stepped in front of Amber and was facing Amber to stop Amber, and when she was in between us, Amber snuck in she got the roundhouse in and just nailed me on the cheekbone.
Do you recall what Miss Heard was upset about at this time?
I do not. I really don't.
And was anyone else in the in penthouse 5 with you and Whitney and Miss Heard?
By that time, Mr. McGivern had been called. I believe that actually Debbie, as I remember, Debbie Lloyd was at the front door of penthouse 5, standing by the door. Mr. McGivern was kind of the bottom of the last group of stairs, and then the thump happened, and I got myself out of the situation, and I walked down the stairs to Mr. McGivern just to say, let's get out of here, And I remember that something was thrown from up there. I don't recall what it was, but something was thrown at me. It seemed like it was like I don't know if it was a bag of like pins or but it was from her office area.
If we could please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 343. And for the record, this is an audio recording, and it's quite lengthy, so we intend to play certain portions of it.
Okay. Any objection?
No objection, other than we'd just like to know what minute and second portions they're going to play.
Okay, but the entire audio is in evidence, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And no
Yes.
objection? Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
And
3:43 in evidence.
If you'd like me to read the specific minutes now, or we can provide it to council afterwards.
Hey, if you want it now, or as you go, or, okay.
We intend to play minute 25, 37 seconds through 26, 28. 1 hour and 57 minutes, 21 seconds through 1 hour, 58 minutes, 54 seconds. 2 hours, 38 minutes, 52 seconds through, 2 hours, 38, 52 seconds through 2 hours, 39 minutes, 43 seconds. And then 2 hours, 46 minutes, 1 second through 2 hours, 47 minutes, 20 seconds. Those are 4 clips.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want to publish something, jury? It doesn't matter. It's just audio. It doesn't matter.
Okay. That's the promise you gave me a little while ago. I'm telling you, if you lost memory last night of kicking me out the door with the fucker hitting me,
Again,
and
sorry.
and your memory is gone from you kicking the bathroom door and hitting me in the skull as I was bent down.
I am
Wait,
sorry.
if you have those memory fucking, divots.
I was upset. There was a lot going on,
okay,
and I was
well,
on an Ambien. Like, why are you obsessing over the fact that I can't remember it the way you remembered it? I said I was sorry. I didn't deny
know
it.
that. I'm not talking about that. What I want. No, it's not to get you mad. It's not to get. It's just to get out of a bad situation while it's happening before it gets worse. In Australia, when we had the big fight where I lost the tip of my finger, at least 5 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms I went
To avoid talking to me.
to escape
That's
to
the
escape
problem.
the fight.
You don't escape the fight. You escape the solution.
No.
You escape the solution.
No.
You escape figuring it out. We cannot work it out if you run away to the bathroom every time.
Listen to me. Listen to me. A boxer can't go 12 rounds without a fucking minute break.
I'm not giving you a minute break. You do it at minute 3 at the beginning of an argument.
No. There are rounds, man. And when it gets too fucking hairy, the ref splits them apart or whatever. But all I'm saying is, you can't have a solution if the argument just keeps mounting and mounting and mounting and mounting. I fucking go into the bathroom and sit on the floor. Bam, 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 here you come. I come out. Fight, crazy, escalated. I go split again, I go to another fucking bathroom or a bedroom or something. Knock, 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 bang, bang, bang. You kept coming to get me. I'm not the one who fucking throws fucking pots and
Those are different. That's different.
Fucking else at me.
That's different. That's one does not negate the other. That's irrelevant. It's a complete non sequitur. Just because I've thrown pots and pans does not mean that you come and knock on the door. Just because there are vases does not mean that you come and knock on the door.
Really, I should just let you throw.
I'm not saying that. You're saying that. You're putting words in my mouth and then making non sequiturs.
I'm giving you a situation.
No, you're trying to justify how you don't or do come to the door based on whether I throw pots and pans. It's irrelevant.
I'm justifying how you seem to think that there's this cowardice in me that runs away and I don't fight for you.
And you're justifying that by saying I throw pots and pans? Okay, cool. Let's talk about everything you do wrong.
I'm not the one who... I said to Travis, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened.
You told me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that.
I said, no, tell him what just happened.
And I lied.
And that you punched me in the fucking thing. And
You figured it out.
And you said, no, fuck it, I didn't. What the fuck are you talking about? And I watched you lie. And then
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, even a lot of fights been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you fucking have a close.
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are you?
What am I supposed to do? Do this? I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are. That's the difference between me and you. You're a fucking baby.
Because you started.
You are such a baby. Grow the fuck up,
You
Johnny.
started physical fights.
I did start a physical
Yeah,
fight.
you did. So I had
Because-
to get the fuck out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable.
Mr. Depp, could you please explain to the jury what they just heard on those audio recordings?
What was displayed on the audio recordings was very much the tone and the aggression and the attitude and the need for a fight from Ms. Heard. That was, I don't know if that was some need for attention, but that was a sound that I had gotten very used to. The squabbling, the raising of the voice to essentially excommunicate anything that I had to say about the situation. But then, and I do remember that incident. I believe that's from the when I was in the bathroom, and I was in fact taking a shower, and this was in penthouse 3, and she came banging on the door, banging on the door, banging on the door. I didn't answer. I was in the shower. I couldn't deal with it. I didn't want to deal with any more of that sarcastic, demeaning, aggressive, violent, toxic spew. And so I was taking a shower and I didn't want to answer the door. She kept banging. And then I finally got out of the shower and I opened the bathroom door about just that much, just so I could have a good hold on the door in case she tried to burst in. And I was right, she did. Bathroom doors go in, she was pushing all her weight on the door, trying to get in. And I was pushing back because I didn't want to let her in, because I obviously didn't want the confrontation. She was not in best of moods, you can hear. So when I was pushing the bathroom door, trying to close it, and was almost closed, she suddenly kind of yelped in pain. And she screamed out, "Ow, my toes or my foot or something." And so in that second, I thought possibly her foot had gotten caught under the door, which would, of course, not feel great on the foot or the toes, so I thought she was maybe injured. So I knelt down to have a look. The door was still, it was still pretty well about that much open. And when I knelt down on my hands and knees to look at her foot to see the injury, she kicked the bathroom door into my head. She kicked the bathroom door into my head, and I was completely taken aback by such a corrosive, horrific move. So I stood up, and I believe I stood up, and at this point the door was open. I stood up and I said, I think I said, "What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that?" And the next move was just a bang, and just she clocked me in the jaw. And that was another shocker.
How long after that did you start recording?
Sorry?
How long after that did you start recording that audio recording that we just heard?
That audio recording was about her trying to make less of what had happened. In fact, trying to make less of what had happened by repeating some story to me that didn't make any sense, and it certainly didn't make any sense since I was there and I was the target. So I wanted some confirmation from someone with some semblance of a mind that could understand what was happening. I wanted Mr. McGivern to come up, and I asked her to tell him what had just happened. And her answer was essentially, "I don't know what he's talking about. Nothing happened. He's fine." And once again, I told Mr. McGivern, time to leave the premises.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to show you now what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 162.
Okay.
take this down. Thank you. Could you pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 92, please? Mr. Depp, what is this a picture of?
That is a that's a photograph of the blade of an old, like a Bowie knife. That's the photograph of the blade with an inscription on it to me from Ms. Hurd, who at the time I referred to as Slim.
Your Honor, we'd like to move Exhibit 90, Plaintiff's Exhibit 92 into evidence.
No objection.
Mr. Depp, what does it say on this knife?
Hasta la muerte,
And what does that mean?
until death.
And then what does it say after that?
XX Slim.
And who is Slim?
Ms. Hurd.
When did Miss Hurd give you this knife?
Well, it was a present from Ms. Hurd. I believe it was around 2015.
Could we please take this down and pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 93?
93?
93, yes. Mr. Depp, what is this a photograph of?
That's the knife in full view. That's the full side of that knife.
Plaintiffs would move Plaintiff's Exhibit 93 into evidence as well.
Objection.
All right, 93 in evidence, and you publish the jury.
Mr. Depp, do you recall the occasion on which Miss Hurd gave you this knife?
I don't recall exactly the occasion, whether it was my birthday of 2015 or if it was a Christmas gift.
We can take this down, please. Thank you. Mr. Depp, I'd now like to show you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 65. And I believe this has already been offered into evidence.
Yes.
If so, if we could please publish to the jury. Thank you. Mr. Depp, what's reflected in these photographs?
There were some scratches, another altercation, and there were some misheard come at me with her nails or hand scratching at me.
And who took these photographs of you?
Once again, I believe this was Mr. Pett, Sean Pett.
And when were these photographs taken?
Seems to be Christmas, 10 days before Christmas, the 15th of December 2015.
Mr. Depp, do you remember what led to you having these scratches on your face?
This was yet again another confrontation where as was my regular practice, there had been an altercation. She was, she had some rage issue with me, and I remember that I was trying to go to my corner, as it were, which is, I was going into my office in penthouse 3, which is upstairs. And as I was approaching the door to my office, Miss Heard ran out of the master bedroom or bedroom and started just throwing wild punches at me, at the back of my head, at the side of my head, at anything that she could connect with. And I had to, I would have to show you sort of how I tried to avoid the attack. If it's all right,
Yes, yes, sir.
If I'm walking this way to the door of my office, the bedroom door is where you are. I walked across the mezzanine there, and as I'm approaching the door, suddenly I'm just getting clobbered from behind, and one's natural primal instinct is to kind of duck and cover. So I ducked and covered, but they didn't stop. So I came up this like this, sort of protecting my face, but at the same time, with her arms swinging wildly, I put my arms out and I was able to get her into a bear hug or something, just to stop her from hitting me anymore. And while holding her in that position, she was still trying to, she had her legs, she could kick, she could knee me, so she was still jumping, kind of very angry, very animated. And yeah, it was unpleasant.
What happened at the end of that situation?
Because of the grabbing of the arms and holding them to her side so that I didn't receive any more blows, and she was still fighting, I believe there was some kind of contact with our heads, our foreheads, as would happen if you're trying to calm someone like that. And then that was when she accused me of headbutting her, of giving her a headbutt and breaking her nose. But there was no blood. There was no. I didn't hit her nose. If there was anything at all, it was a bump of. Well, I'm trying to restrain her. She's trying to get out of it. There's going to be some contact here and there, accidental contact, but not a headbutt.
How did you escape this altercation?
After she'd made the remark about the fact that headbutted her, which was just impossible. She split. She huffed off. I let her go. She huffed away, and she was gone for about 7 or 8 minutes. And then when she came back, I was in the bedroom of penthouse 3, our bedroom. And she came back about 7 or 8 minutes later. And she had a Kleenex or a tissue to her nose. And she pulled it away from her nose and she showed it to me. And there was red. There was indeed like red color on the tissue. But me, I know that there was no connection to her nose. No part of my body made connection to her nose or eyes or anything like. So she said, she took it away and she showed it to me. She said, "Way to go, Johnny, you broke my nose. You broke my nose." And I knew I hadn't, so I said, you go into sort of placation mode, which is, "Oh my God, let me see, are you okay? What happened? Let me see." And she wouldn't let me see anything. And so I just tried to calm the situation as best I could. All the while, I was waiting for her to dispense with that Kleenex because I didn't trust it. And so I waited. And when she dropped it into the wastebasket in her bathroom, or in our bathroom, and left the room. Went somewhere downstairs, I think, I don't know. And then I pulled the Kleenex out of the trash bin, and I inspected it pretty closely and realized that it was nail polish. It was nail varnish or polish.
Mr. Depp, shortly after December 15th, 2015, where did you and Miss Heard go for the holidays? It had been planned for a while that we would be going to the island, and we would be going to the island with my kids, Lily Rose and Jack, and Lily Rose's boyfriend at the time, there's a friend of Amber's called Alice Temperley, I believe her name is, and her boyfriend Greg Williams, who's a very well-known photographer, and both very nice people, and their kids were going to. She told me they were going to be coming to the island, and I thought, okay, great. And so yeah, that's where we went for the holidays. And what happened on the island in December 2015?
Many things.
Was there any violence by Miss Heard against you?
Oh, yes, there were a couple of incidents that were, again, just each time one of these incidents would occur, it seemed to get worse and worse. That is to say, as opposed to fists or anything like that. I had set up on the back porch of the house. I had set up an area with an easel and oil paints and a can of mineral spirits, linseed oil, brushes, everything. So she wanted to paint. So I had set it up for her. And again, I remember sitting at the table where most of the paintbrushes and the can and all that stuff was. And the argument, again, escalated, and she simply reached down and grabbed the can of mineral spirits and chucked it at my face. She threw it at my face, and it struck me right at the bridge of the nose, sort of the forehead, bridge of the nose area. And it hurt.
Who else was around when this happened?
Well, thankfully my children and Lily Rose's boyfriend were over towards the cafe. At that point, I didn't know that anyone else was around or had witnessed anything. I thought it was just Amber and I, but apparently there are 4 staff who work on the island.
I don't think it's hearsay. I don't think any such statements yet. You can go ahead and continue your answer, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, the staff that work on your island, Mr. Depp.
Yeah. So there are indeed 4 staff who work on the island and live there all year round, who take care of everything, and 2 of them happened to be in that area and witnessed the violence.
I'll sustain as to, unless you can lay a foundation, how you would know
Certainly.
that if it was not hearsay.
Mr. Depp, how do you know that these staff members witnessed part of this altercation?
These people, as I said, they're staff on the island, though I consider them family and very dear to me. And I believe it is mutual. I've known them a very long time. They were visibly shaken by what they'd witnessed.
Objection.
Again, if you can lay a foundation, if he saw them there, or if this is something.
Mr. Depp, did you see any of these individuals shortly after you had this altercation with Ms. Heard?
No, that's not the proper. Did he see them as actually there? If he didn't, if it was something they told him, then it's hearsay.
Mr. Depp, did you see any of your staff members at the house when you and Ms. Heard had that altercation?
Once Miss Heard had stormed off, I sort of sat there dazed and confused for a few minutes, and then I walked around the house and I saw Tara and...
That's fine. Okay, I'll sustain the objection and move on.
You mentioned Tara. Who's Tara?
Tara's the manager of the island.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to discuss April 2016 now. When is Miss Heard's birthday?
22nd of April.
And in 2016, how was Miss Heard celebrating her birthday?
We'd set up a dinner for her, which was, she wanted to have a dinner with all her friends, and Josh, Drew, Rocky's boyfriend, who was some sort of chef, he asked her what she would like for him to cook. That's hearsay, I guess.
I know, I'm just sure softened for the truth of the matter, sir.
He got it.
Okay, all right, well then.
I'm learning.
There you go.
Let me put it a different way. Mr. Drew, who was a chef, which I don't believe is hearsay, Mr. Drew had made Mexican food Ms. Hurd's favorite. Is that better?
And what were you doing that day before Miss Hurd's birthday celebration?
I had been in a room for many, many hours with a group of accountants, new accountants, and they were going through essentially the situation that I was in financially, which was a real shock to me. I had no idea, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but I prefer to think of the work as opposed to how much I'm getting paid. So I had no idea how much money I had made. I just didn't. I just figured if I was working, it was money, so everything would be all right. They informed me that I had been, quite an inordinate amount of sum of money had been was gone. It had disappeared, and after having worked 30-something years in the industry, I'm sorry, I could hear Miss Brett.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was pretty shocked at where I was to learn I was exactly financially. And it was a very long meeting. And I knew, of course, that Miss Hurd's birthday dinner was to start at, I believe, 8:30. And I texted her a number of times from the meeting saying, this is probably going to go long, and I think I might be a little late. I'm sorry, but it's important, and I'm going to be a bit late for the dinner. And I apologized all over the place, and so when I left and picked up something at the house, which I believe was her gift, on the way downtown, I received a text from Miss Hurd asking me to asked if I could bring some wine and some weed. And I texted back, sure. And then by the time I arrived at Penthouse 5 for the party, I was about an hour and 40 minutes late, maybe, something like that.
Before you arrived, how many drinks had you had?
Oh, I think I'd had a glass of wine with, there was one bottle of wine that Ed White had brought to the meeting that between, I don't know how many, 5 or 6 of us, we had a glass of wine.
Could you tell the jury who Ed White is?
Oh yeah, sorry. Ed White was at the time he was my new business manager, and he was quite a he was quite a professional, nearly forensic business manager, and he had shown me things that from my former business managers that were quite disturbing.
Hearsay.
I believe he said he showed him.
Yes, yes, I looked at papers. Maybe they're hearsay papers. I don't know.
I believe he was being shown financial documents.
All right. So, I'll say this any hearsay that might be correct. All right, next question.
Mr. Depp, when you arrived at the party, how did Miss Heard greet you, if at all?
Very cold.
What did she say to you?
Not much. Not much. Except occasionally she would tear herself from the conversation that she was in just to lean towards me. I was sitting to her right, and I would get a quick earful of, I can't believe you've done this to me on my birthday. I can't believe I'm so embarrassed. Which I found odd because I'd kept her informed all day, and the last text that I'd received was a request for wine and marijuana. So when I got there and received that attitude, what could I do? So I just made the best of it and talked to her friends, and because they were all her friends except for, I believe, Nurse Erin. Erin was there, I believe.
What's Erin's last name?
Erin Borum, Nurse Erin, who had been the nurse assigned to Ms. Heard. So I just had conversations with the various people there. Her makeup artist, Melanie Iglesias, was there with her fella, and I remember speaking French with them. I didn't really eat. Wasn't feeling it.
Did you have any drinks once you arrived at the birthday party?
Wine.
How many glasses?
I don't. Maybe two. Maybe two, because they were like large. The large sort of Bordeaux glasses. So yeah, maybe two glasses of wine. By the time it started to wind down.
How many drinks did you observe Miss Heard consume after you arrived at the party?
I really couldn't say because all I saw was just she was drinking wine.
And did it seem to you that she had been drinking wine prior to your arrival?
I was sure, since I was an hour and 40 minutes late, that Miss Heard was well into the wine before I got there. Yes, certainly.
How did the party come to an end?
It was kind of, one person would say, well, I better get out of here, and then two more couples or two more people would say, yeah, time to go. And then it just wound down. There was Mr. Drew, Miss Pennington, Whitney, possibly Whitney. And that was about it. It was sort of left there.
And what happened after the guests left the party?
She was free to commence with the usual verbal barrage, and at that point, there was so much in my head from the meeting. I thought it was a bit much that Miss Heard had, I'm sorry, it seemed quite brattish, it seemed quite childish that Miss Heard was holding such a grudge against me for having been late to her 30th birthday party when she knew very well, she was well informed that I was in an intense meeting that had a lot to do with not just my life and my future, but my children's. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if houses were going to start going away. I didn't. So it felt. I'm sure, of course, she felt something, but it felt unfair. It felt small, comparatively. If your loved one or your husband has had some very serious issues brought before him. So when she engaged in her normal kind of banter of trying to poke at me and get me to react, I literally just got into bed. I remember the television was on, and I was reading, and I suppose Miss Heard was down in her area taking off her makeup and changing into sleep clothes, whatever, and she entered the bedroom while I was laying on my side of the bed reading, and she was still rattling off all the wrongs I'd done to her in that particular day, and how unreliable I am, and what a horrible person I was, and I did not engage verbally, nothing. I sat there or laid there reading my book, and when she didn't get a jump out of me or a jolt out of me, she got out of bed, she walked around the bed, she came to my side, and again, you've got a person who is throwing multiple shots at your face, at your head, at your neck, at anything she could hit. So I got up out of bed, and I grabbed her by the shoulders, and I sat her down on the bed. And I said, I'm leaving. Please don't get off the bed. Please don't follow me. Please don't try and stop me. I'm leaving. And she got up off the bed, and she squared off at me in the doorway of our bedroom. And I said, what do you want to do? Hit me again? Would you like to hit me again? And I said, go ahead, hit me. Bam. And then I just said, is that what you wanted? Would you like another? Bam. There's the second one. And I said, good, now you're done. Grabbed her by the shoulders, walked her to the bed, sat her down, and said, don't follow me. Leave me alone. I'm out. I'm gone. I went, I grabbed a few things, and I got out immediately, and I went to my other house on Sweetser. as Ms. Heard she was leaving the following day for Coachella, which is Coachella's like it's a big event, a concert, you know, many bands, and out in the desert. She and her friends were going to Coachella for the weekend, and that was it. That was it.
Mr. Depp, after April 21st, 2016, when was the next time that you actually saw Miss Heard in person?
I left Miss Heard, I left Penthouse 3. I left at 4:30 in the morning. It was actually her birthday. It was 4:30 in the morning, April 22nd. And that's when I left. And from that moment on, I did not see Ms. Heard until May 21st.
And why was that?
I had received some news that was as absurd and grotesque and cruel. And then I was shown a picture of what the problem was. I had gone to Mr. Bett and said, she's at Coachella. I think it's a good time to go downtown so that I can get some of my things, you know, and get them out of there, especially the things that were precious to me, you know, children things from friends, Brando, Hunter, Thompson, whatever, things that were important to me. And he said, I don't think now's a good time to go. And I thought, it's the perfect time. She's not going to be home for 2 days. And then he showed me a photograph on his telephone of...
Objection, Your Honor. That's what you're saying.
It's a photograph, Your Honor.
As being relayed to him by Mr. Bett.
He says he looked at it on his phone.
I'll rule the objection as the photograph.
What was the photograph of Mr. Depp?
It was a photograph of the bed, our bed, and on my side of the bed was human fecal matter. So I understood why it wasn't a good time to go down there. My initial response to that was, I laughed. It was so outside. It was so bizarre and so grotesque that I could only laugh. So I did not go down there that day.
Mr. Depp, how was your mother's health during this time?
Not good at all. My mom was in Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and she was on her way out. She was dying.
How often were you going to see her during this time?
Excuse me?
How often were you going to see her during this time?
As much as I could under the circumstances. but when I did go and get to see my mom, she was pretty much incapable of speech. Her speech had left her. At that time, she seemed to. Her eyes were still open. She could kind of react with her eyes, but she couldn't speak. And then, not long after that, once her eyes closed, she lay there for the duration of her life, which ended on the 20th of May, the night before I saw Miss Hurd for the last time. Well, essentially.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Depp, but how did your mother's death affect you?
As it would anyone, I suppose. There was one thing that I couldn't fathom was, I brought my kids to see Betty Sue in the hospital, and at that time she was not functioning. She was not responsive. She was alive still. She was fighting still inside, but she was lying in the bed, and excuse this analogy, but all I could think of was how if she's conscious if she's conscious of everything that's going on around her, but has no ability to speak, has no ability to move. I knew that the one thing, as far as Betty Sue was concerned, the last thing that she would have wanted was to have ended up lying there on what it was like. There's my mom lying there on a deli platter, and it was a horrible image. But I brought my kids in to say goodbye, and we all spoke into her ear, and then she passed away later. So it was painful, but there was some side of it too, at least to me, that in a way it was, I was happy for her.
Why was that?
I can't imagine Betty Sue or my mom. I can't imagine anyone lying there in quite possibly was a kind of a locked-in syndrome. And if she's surrounded by 10 people looking at her lying there on that deli platter, if you will, I was happy for her that she was out of pain, out of frustration, out of... I was happy that she'd moved. Not happy, I was relieved that she was no longer in that situation. Though, when those you love leave, we're the ones stuck with the pain, with the grieving. But I was glad that my kids got to see her, and give her send off, I suppose, and but it was it opened my eyes quite a lot to a number of things.
And what were some of those things that your mother's death opened your eyes to?
That life is a bird song. That what feels like 100 years is in fact a second, millisecond. Nobody can count those things. So I had made peace with Betty Sue because I understood where she came from, and I understood how difficult her childhood was, and I understood that she had not had the proper training or proper teaching or the proper background to be anything other than what she had been when we were younger. I forgave her for all that, as one should. So I was, it opened my eyes to the fact that yes, try in relationships, whether friendships, whether courtships, whether marriage, whether this, whether that. Try your best, try. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And more importantly, if you're going to get out of it, if you're going to make an end, which I had decided that it was, somebody had to call it, and I decided that I would call Amber and tell her that my mom had died that day. And then I very calmly said, look, I've made a decision and I think it's the best thing. I'm going to file for divorce, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to cite irreconcilable differences. I'm not going to cite any violence. I'm going to state this. We simply, the two of us, we simply don't want to feel as though we have a collar around each other's neck and a leash attached to it, and then this piece of paper that proves that that's true. So what I thought was best was we want to end this in love and take the idea of ownership of one another out of the picture. And that's how I approached Miss Heard with that. And
So why did you go over to the penthouses on May 21st, 2016?
Miss Heard had requested that I come over to have a talk, to explain. She wanted to explain things, and so I went there. And I also wanted to gather up some of those things, precious things that you live with. So I went over there to have a discussion, what I thought would be calm understanding. And I figured she understood as well as I did that there was no way back, and I also felt that she would understand that it was the best thing for both of us, and there were no, there was nothing to, there should have been nothing to fight over. It was clear. I had told her that I would take care of her and all that, and then she she was telling me about she brought up the situation of the fecal matter on the bed, and and she tried to blame it on the dogs. But
Why didn't you think it could have been the dogs?
The dogs they're teacup Yorkies. They weigh about 4 pounds each. The photograph that I saw, and I mean, I lived with those dogs for many years, and so did Hilda Vargas. She's a woman who's been with me for 30 plus years, from the very beginning, and she was the one who photographed it. It was clear she knew the dogs as well as I did. That was none of that did not come from a dog. It just didn't.
Mr. Depp, could we back up a little bit? Who went over to the penthouses with you on May 21st?
I went to the penthouses with Jerry Judge and Sean Depp, and I had asked them on the just in case, please pay particular attention and stay as close to the door, stay at the door, or if you got a split, come back quick, if they went down to the security shack or whatever it was, don't linger, get back, because if you hear anything, if you hear screaming, you got to get in there. So leave the door unlocked and spring in there if you hear something.
Why did you want them to be able to get into the penthouse quickly if they heard anything?
Just based on my past experiences with Miss Heard, when you say something that she either didn't agree with or swore up and down that it was a complete falsity and there was something wrong with me, I'm crazy, and the escalation. If anything was going to start to escalate, I did not want to be there. So I had them waiting by the door to get in there in case anything went down.
So when you walked into the penthouse, what did you see?
When I first walked into the penthouses, you walk in and then make a left, and then you're in the kitchen area, and then beyond that was the living room. I saw Miss Heard sitting there on the couch, and I went over to talk. I went and sat down on the couch. She was sitting on the couch. Was kind of a square or a half square. She was sitting on one side of the couch. I was sitting on the other. That's when she was trying to explain a few things about Coachella and then the fecal delivery. and saying that it was the dogs. And I'm sorry, I could not agree with her. I'd lived with those dogs. I picked up their fun. It was not the dogs. And so what happened was I said, let's call Kevin Murphy.
Who's Kevin Murphy?
Kevin Murphy he was in Los Angeles. He was the house manager over the places in West Hollywood, and he was also taking care of the penthouses downtown. If any work needed to be done or this or that, and he would schedule the girls who would come in, the ladies like Hilda, to do their work. And he'd had a conversation with Ms. Heard.
Hearsay, Your Honor.
Let's move beyond the
All right, let's
conversation
move
that
on.
Kevin Murphy had with Ms. Heard. So after you called Kevin Murphy, what happened?
I asked Kevin if Amber and he had spoken about the incident. He said, yes, they had. Okay. And it appears that Miss Heard had told...
Hearsay, Your Honor.
I'm not sure.
This is apparently a statement by Ms. Heard.
That he heard from Kevin Murphy. That's what the testimony is.
All right, if you want to reframe that, that's fine.
Okay. When did you hang up the phone with Kevin Murphy?
Right about the time that Miss Heard was screaming obscenities at him and calling him a liar, and that he was a scumbag. And I told her, I said, listen, don't speak to this man that way. Do not disrespect this man in that way. And then Kevin Murphy just hung up. And so at that point, she was riled, of course. And I went upstairs to gather belongings. When I came back downstairs, she was on the phone with Io Tillett, right, and they were making a wonderful point of just how funny it was that I thought that some human being had actually dropped a grumpy, pardon the term, onto the bed, and they were yucking it up. They were laughing about the whole thing, and it was you know, it was a tough couple of days, and I really didn't feel like I deserved that kind of treatment. And I went over and I said, let me talk to her. I grabbed the phone and I said to Io, you can have her now. She's yours. She's all yours. Right? And then I took the phone and I just bang like that onto that side of the couch was 8 feet long. The other side of the couch was about 6 feet long. I flopped it onto the couch and I was walking towards the kitchen to exit, and then suddenly Rocky Pennington ran in to the penthouse and started, leave her alone, Johnny, leave her alone. I was by the refrigerator at this point. I was 20 feet away.
Where was Miss Heard at that time?
She was still sitting on the couch. And that's when the screaming, the screaming started with again, I'm 20 feet away. She's still got Io on the phone. She's got Rocky there. Stop hitting me, Johnny, she's screaming. In her best freaked out, upset voice, high-pitched. Stop hitting me. Jerry Judge and Sean Bett entered the room. And as they entered the room, and she was quite surprised to see them, she said, "That's the last time you'll ever hit me. That's the last time you'll ever do that to me." And again, I'm a good 20 feet away by the fridge. And then Jerry said, "Boss, I think we should just leave." And then we left. That was the last time I saw Miss Heard until she asked me to break the restraining order. Or not break the restraining order. Break the restraining order and talk to her in July later.
Mr. Depp, where did you go after you left the penthouses on May 21st?
I went home.
To which home?
Oh, to Sweetser.
And then where did you go? Where did you go after you went home to Sweetser?
I was due to. I had to go to. I had to catch a flight to New York, where we were doing. I was this group, the Hollywood Vampires. We were about to set out on a 2 or 3 month tour of Europe, and we were rehearsing in New York, and then we played one show in New York as a warm-up gig, and then we were on the plane, and we started the shows in Europe. And I was on the road from then, which was May, through July, August or something.
Ms. Myers, is this a good time to take our
I
afternoon break?
was just going to
Okay,
suggest that. Thank you,
Good.
Your
All
Honor.
right, thank you. Let's go ahead and take our afternoon break, ladies and gentlemen. Please do not do any outside research and do not discuss the case. Thank you. All right. Take our recess. Mr. Depp, you know what I'm going to say, right? You're learning, right? Okay. 3:45? Is that good?